We didn't suffer. I know how them kids suffer. You know, and people don't understand that I was on death row, finna get a needle in my arm because of rap, bro.
The law enforcement response could have been pulled straight from a film, showing the lengths authorities will go when someone becomes a focus. A police helicopter was dispatched to track the black Mercedes SUV Boosie was riding in. The vehicle was eventually stopped, with officers citing a red light violation. During the stop, police found 2 loaded guns, a Glock and a Hellcat. Boosie tried to shield his security team, explaining that one of the weapons belonged to his associate. Prosecutors, however, rejected that claim outright. At that point, the matter shifted into federal territory. Prosecutors alleged Boosie had acquired the weapons in Georgia and transported them to San Diego on a Delta flight earlier that day. That detail allowed them to frame the case under interstate commerce, which elevated it to a federal offense. What first seemed like a local case was soon much more serious. Initially, Boosie was charged by the San Diego County District Attorney with multiple offenses: possession of a firearm by a prohibited person, carrying a concealed weapon in a vehicle, possession of ammunition by a prohibited person, and possession of an unregistered firearm. His legal team felt positive, expecting a probation arrangement that would spare him jail. But on June 14, 2023, federal authorities revealed they had a different plan. The state charges were quietly dismissed by the San Diego County Superior Court, leading Boosie to believe he might be released. Instead, as soon as he left the courtroom, federal agents arrested him on a felon in possession charge.
Yes, look, all the years, I've known you for like 20 years now, right? And I've never seen a gun around you.
Right.
I'm being honest.
Right.
This is not me in front of the camera. I've never seen a gun on the coffee table. I've never seen it tucked in, nothing.
Right.
Boosie's history with the legal system runs deep, and it seems that fight is far from finished. The rapper has been taken back into custody, and recently released jail footage shows him looking noticeably unhealthy. Many supporters argue that the system is unfairly targeting him, and the circumstances around his arrest only strengthen that claim. Let's take a closer look. From the streets to federal court, Boosie Badass has built a reputation as a voice of realism, someone who never shied away from rapping about the challenges of street life. So when it was revealed that he accepted a federal plea deal that could place him behind bars for up to 2 years, the reaction within his community was both immediate and intense. The situation began like a normal day for the Baton Rouge native. On May 6, 2023, Boosie traveled to San Diego for business, shooting a music video and preparing to perform at the Phantom Lounge in the Gaslamp Quarter. It was routine work, the type that helps provide for his family, including his 9 children. But as always, the streets are under watch, and increasingly, so is social media. What followed raised pressing questions about surveillance and personal privacy. During the video shoot, San Diego police were reportedly monitoring the Instagram live feed of a known neighborhood figure. While watching, they noticed Boosie with what looked like a black handgun tucked in his waistband. Think about that for a moment. Police actively tracking live social media, waiting for someone to slip up? It's the kind of targeted monitoring that makes anyone in the spotlight, especially with a prior record, reconsider every move.
State case was dropped, and out of nowhere, the feds picked it up.
Now, it was a state case. The feds came, picked it up.
The federal arrest quickly frustrated Boosie's defense team. His lawyer, Megan Blanco, criticized the decision, arguing that it went against the government's own petite policy, which discourages prosecuting someone twice for the same conduct. Another attorney, Damon L., was more blunt. He suggested Boosie's outspoken criticism of the justice system on social media may have drawn federal attention. The case itself centered on a technical interpretation of the law. Because of a 2011 marijuana conviction, Boosie was legally classified as a prohibited person under federal rules, making firearm possession illegal. The problem? That prior conviction was for a nonviolent offense more than 10 years old. Yet under this statute, Boosie was now facing up to 15 years in federal prison for an act many view as protected under the Constitution. Gun ownership. The judge originally set his bond at $100,000, but once the matter shifted to federal court, the standards became stricter and the risks significantly greater. This was no longer a county jail issue, it was a case that could take more than a decade of his life. Then, an unexpected development changed the direction of the case. In July 2024, U.S. District Judge Kathy N. Benaruno dismissed the charge, citing a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling in the Stephen Shorty Duarte case. That decision held it unconstitutional to ban nonviolent felons from possessing firearms under the Second Amendment.
They had a ruling in the Supreme Court that went in my favor, and the case got dropped by the judge. The
scene outside the courthouse reflected relief and gratitude. Boosie became emotional while addressing the media, saying, 99% of people thought I was going to prison, but God had a different plan. Marked the moment by removing his ankle monitor and jumping into a pool at San Diego's Sicuan Casino Resort, a symbolic gesture of resilience. But the government's response was swift. Less than 2 weeks later, U.S. Attorney Tara McGrath's office refiled charges against him, this time for possession of a firearm, by a felon involving interstate commerce, and for knowingly having a weapon while using controlled substances.
They went appeal the Supreme Court ruling, and they won on the Supreme Court ruling. Now it was back again.
Not long after, a larger panel from the Ninth Circuit Court overturned the earlier Duarte ruling, declaring that the federal restriction on felons owning firearms was constitutional. With that decision, Boosie's brief legal win ended abruptly. The new indictment added a drug-related firearm charge, carrying up to 10 more years in prison and top of the 15-year maximum for the initial felon in possession charge. Boosie shared his anger online, accusing prosecutors of going too far and calling the process racially biased. What started as a case that could have resulted in probation escalated into a full federal prosecution, showing how aggressively the system can act once it sets its sights on someone. The message was clear. When the federal government decides to pursue a case, it uses every tool available to secure a conviction. From monitoring his Instagram Live, to deploying helicopters, to arresting him immediately after local charges were strategy left little doubt. This level of effort underscored how much attention was directed at Boosie. More than most defendants in similar cases, it went beyond enforcing the law. It appeared to be about making an example, a warning to others from similar backgrounds who achieve success but continue to speak openly about their past. To understand why Boosie Badass ultimately accepted a federal plea deal it's important to review his long history with the justice system. This was not a first-time defendant caught up in an isolated mistake. He was a veteran of legal battles, carrying the weight of past cases that influenced how he approached this one. When legal challenges reach the federal level, prior history plays a critical role. Boosie's run-ins with the law began early. Growing up in Baton Rouge, specifically on West Garfield Street, in one of Louisiana's toughest housing projects, he faced trouble as a teenager. He was expelled from McKinley High School for drug-related issues, and like many in similar environments, he started hustling, picking up minor charges before turning 18. But the stakes rose in 2009, when he was sentenced to 4 years for drug and firearm possession. Serving time tested both his character and determination. He continued pushing his music career from prison, but outside factors and the realities of the streets still shaped his situation. In October 2010, his problems deepened. While incarcerated, he was indicted for first-degree murder in the 2009 killing of Terry Boyd. Prosecutors allege that Boosie hired Mike Louding for $2,800 to carry out the shooting, claiming it was retaliation for a letter Boyd had sent with threats and disrespectful remarks.
That slide.
Offer you what?
Principle.
What's that?
Principle of first-degree murder.
What does that mean?
Principle mean like you had something to do with it.
The prosecution's case, however, had weaknesses. Their main witness, Michael Louding, first implicated Boosie but later recanted, saying police pressured him by threatening the death penalty and involving his family. Prosecutors also pointed to a tattoo Louding got 2 weeks after the shooting in AK-47 with the phrase "Yo Boosie, who's next?" as a sign of guilt. Another disputed element was the use of Boosie's music. Prosecutors presented lyrics from songs like 187 In and Body Bag, reportedly recorded the night of the murder, as evidence of his state of mind. This raised larger concerns about rap lyrics being used in court, and the risks it poses for artists who use their music as a raw outlet for
trial.
And what was the time that they were offering?
I think it was like 15, but they were running concurrent, so I had like 5 left.
When the jury returned its verdict in May 2012, the decision came swiftly.
Okay. How hard was that decision? Because 5 years.
It wasn't hard at all. My lawyer already told me they was beat.
Okay.
My lawyer whooped, bro. It's whooped. I just gotta run it by you. This is whooped.
Right, because it actually went to a jury verdict.
Yeah.
And all 12 jurors said.
In just 35 minutes, the jury delivered its conclusion, finding Boosie not guilty of first-degree murder. The speed of that decision highlighted how weak the prosecution's case had been.
Justice.
How did that feel?
It was one of the best days of my life.
However, being cleared of murder charges did not lead to immediate freedom. While still serving time, Boosie was accused of running a drug operation inside Louisiana's Angola prison. These charges extended his sentence, keeping him incarcerated until March 2014. The mental strain from those years was considerable.
I mean, I got found guilty in 36 minutes. Not guilty in 36 minutes.
Oh, that's an open and
Before
shut
the
case.
trial began, prosecutors offered a plea deal, but Boosie refused and placed his confidence in his defense team.
How many times have you been told on? By someone you knew?
Probably twice.
Twice. Did either one of those lead to convictions?
No.
Thank God. Okay, so...
All my convictions are... Oh, yes, it did. Yes, it did.
But this is probably why it hits you a little bit deeper than everyone else.
Yeah.
You've gotten told on that led... How long was the conviction?
8 years.
The pain in his voice when he talks about snitches is real because it's personal.
My cousin was taken away. Life at 15 years old because someone corroborated. My uncle was taken away in the 80s. We didn't suffer. I know how them kids suffer. And people don't understand it. I was on death row, finna get a needle in my fucking arm. Because
Spending time on death row while fighting for survival left long-term consequences. The emotional weight was heavy, and the financial burden was equally damaging.
And I had to do parole on that conviction.
Exactly.
4 year, 5 year parole when I got out.
When you look at where your career is right now, if you didn't have to sit down for 5.5 years, do you think you'd be farther along?
Hell yeah. Be rich as
Right, because you lost your house.
I lost everything.
You lost everything.
I lost everything. I lost my house. I lost everything. I came back
This
with
background
nothing.
explains Boosie's outlook during the 2023 federal gun case. After facing a possible death sentence, serving years in prison, losing almost everything, and having to rebuild, his view on risk, resilience, and justice had fundamentally changed by August 2025. After 3 years of battling federal charges, seeing the case dismissed and reinstated, dealing with new allegations, and facing the possibility of decades in prison, Boosie finally reached his limit. He spoke directly to his supporters on X, posting,
How do you feel about the sentencing that's coming up?
I just told you I trust in God. That's how I feel. I feel like God because my mama got on my ass the other day and told me, because my mom, they heavy on God.
His mother's advice carried significant influence, encouraging him to move away from leaning on political backing and instead put his trust in spiritual guidance.
Stop asking f***ing pardon. You taking your faith out. You taking your faith out of God. You ask God to put faith in a man. Stop asking a man. Stop asking people. I could have appealed that, but that'll be 2-3 more years, and I'm just wasn't gonna go to trial with it.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna go to trial with it from the dump actually, but I feel like this the right move for me.
In practical terms, the plea agreement was a favorable outcome given what Boosie was facing. It proposed a 2-year prison term, followed by 3 years of supervised release, rather than the maximum 15 years. Just as important, prosecutors agreed not to impose financial penalties, recognizing his limited resources. This was the same individual who once rejected a 15-year plea deal in a murder case. This time, however, he understood the importance of making a calculated choice. At times, preserving your freedom and avoiding unnecessary risks is the smarter move. While life on the streets may have shaped his instincts for survival, his experiences have taught him when it's better to stand down and conserve energy for battles that truly matter. Conflicts, controversies, and what comes next. Even as Boosie Butters managed serious legal challenges, he continued to face scrutiny from the public. Courtroom developments were closely followed, but his outspoken comments and ongoing disputes kept him in the headlines, often separate from his legal troubles, as the possibility of serving time remains. It's important to look at the disputes surrounding him. Perhaps the most personal one is not with prosecutors, but with Charleston White, an internet figure known for targeting Boosie as part of his online presence. This conflict has moved far past ordinary disagreements between entertainers. It has become highly personal, crossing boundaries that extend well beyond music or public commentary.
Marlo Mike was the nigga. He killed 9 black people, my nigga, before he even got 16 years old. But you know what? That kid watched somebody die when he was a baby, and he remembered the murder. And that kid also suffered with mental health. And Lil Boosie running around here talking like he tough in the motherfucker. And got a 16-year-old kid with life without
Charleston
parole.
White's attacks on Boosie have become especially personal and offensive. He accused Boosie of intimidating a Baton Rouge promoter to block White from performing there, and even claimed he contacted the FBI about threats to his safety. but the dispute escalated in far more harmful ways. White has repeatedly mocked Boosie's diabetes and health, predicting his decline in prison, and even wagering $10,000 on his death while incarcerated. These remarks go beyond criticism, appearing to exploit someone's medical condition for attention. When Boosie announced his plea deal, Charleston White's response was widely considered to be extremely disrespectful.
Matter of fact, right now, Father God, in the name of Jesus, I pray Boosie get at least 36 months, God. Father God, he done gotten away too many times. You done gave them too many chances, Lord. Every knee go bow and every tongue go confess. Boosie knee ain't bowed yet, God, because he still upholds the world and the streets and the same thing that you are against. Sexual
He even went as far as
perversion.
sending a letter to the federal judge, urging them to hand down the toughest sentence possible. In it, White brought up Boosie's past murder trial and accused him of showing disrespect toward law enforcement. That level of hostility goes well beyond normal disagreement or public conflict. What stands out, however, is Boosie's reaction. While many in his position might have fired back, he has chosen restraint, likely knowing that any response could negatively affect his current legal situation.
But I guess that
I
never
don't
happened.
need no apology.
I know, you don't need an apology, but I felt that if I had the chance to do that, I would at least try. Unfortunately,
But
didn't
Charleston White
Charleston
isn't the
White-
only source of controversy surrounding Boosie. His remarks about LGBTQ+ issues have drawn widespread backlash, reaching far beyond his usual audience. In February 2020, during an Instagram Live, Boosie criticized NBA player Dwyane Wade's transgender daughter, Zaya Wade, urging the athlete not to allow his child to transition. His comments were widely seen as inappropriate, especially because they targeted a minor, leading to accusations of transphobia. Then in October 2021, he escalated matters by directing hateful comments at openly gay rapper Lil Nas X, encouraging self-harm and criticizing his openness about his sexuality. These remarks were widely condemned, resulted in social media bans, and drew strong responses from the LGBTQ community. Most recently, in January 2024, Boosie faced criticism after walking out of The Color Purple movie because it depicted lesbian relationships. He explained his decision as protecting his daughters from content he found unsuitable. Critics, however, pointed out the contradiction, noting that his own music often promotes sexualized portrayals of women when it aligns with male fantasy. These controversies haven't just sparked debate, they've had real public and professional consequences. In March 2025, Planet Fitness banned Boosie from all their gyms due to his earlier remarks about Zaya Wade. The fallout from his statements has affected both his income and his access to platforms. Perhaps the most personal impact has been within his own family. In 2023, Boosie's daughter, Poison Ivy, came out as a lesbian. During an interview on Vlad TV, Boosie admitted her sexuality wasn't accepted in their Southern Baptist household. The emotional toll of rejection by a parent can be both deep and long-lasting still. Despite criticism, more perhaps because of his refusal to back down, Boosie has kept a loyal fan base that values his consistency. At a time when many artists adapt their image to gain mainstream approval, Boosie has remained firm in his beliefs, even when that stance has cost him financially and professionally. As November 21, 2025, his sentencing date. The key question is what comes next for the Baton Rouge rapper. The plea deal suggests a 2-year sentence followed by 3 years of supervised release. But the final outcome rests on how the judge weighs several factors. His attorney, Megan Blanco, is pushing for leniency, highlighting Boosie's charitable work and positive role in his community. She hopes the court might consider probation instead of prison. The judge is expected to review his involvement in initiatives like the Caleb Wilson Memorial Scholarship and his responsibilities as a father to 9 children. Still, the federal system is strict, and Boosie's criminal history combined with his recent controversies may work against him. Prosecutors have taken a tough stance from the start and are expected to push for the full 2-year sentence.
I don't know. It's up to the judge to give me credit for my anger monitor.
Exactly.
It's up to the judge to give me credit for my anger
If
monitor.
Boosie ends
If
up
Boosie
serving
does-
time, his career direction is already familiar. When he was released in 2014 after 5 years, he signed with Atlantic Records and dropped Touchdown to Cause Hell in 2015, which debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200. That project proved time in prison hadn't shaken the loyalty of his fans. His latest release, Words of a Real One, came out in August 2025 and shows he's still sharp creatively, if while dealing with federal charges. The album has been embraced by listeners and positions him well for the next chapter. Throughout this legal battle, the hip-hop community has stood by him. Social media has been filled with comments like "Stay strong, Boosie," and "We got you." A reminder that respect and authenticity still carry weight. That kind of support is rare in an industry known for fast shifts and short-lived loyalty. But hip-hop culture is evolving, and Boosie's traditional views don't always match the more progressive direction of today's audience. His stance on LGBTQ+ issues places him at odds with broader cultural trends. which could limit his reach beyond his core base. Meanwhile, the feud with Charleston White continues. White has vowed to keep targeting Boosie's family online during any possible prison term, so even if Boosie serves time, the public drama may carry on outside the prison walls.
And they got people from the feds calling me, blowing me up right now, bro, everywhere, bro. When you coming up here? We just heard the news. Man, shit, I ain't even in jail, dog.
Need a cellmate? Where do I sign up?
I got a bag waiting on you, you straight.
Even his critics
his
acknowledge his credibility. Reports suggest that federal inmates are already trying to connect with him before sentencing, proof that reputation follows those seen as matter where they go. Major outlets like Billboard and Rolling Out have pointed out that resolving this case, even if it includes prison time, could give Boosie the closure he needs to fully refocus on his music. In many ways, the uncertainty of fighting federal charges may have been more damaging than serving time itself. Regardless of the outcome on November 21st, Boosie has already established himself as one of hip-hop's most authentic voices. From Baton Rouge to the courtroom in San Diego, he has stayed true to who he is and where he came from. The system may have tested him, but he remains standing. The next phase begins on November 21st, 2025, when Judge Kathy Bano delivers the sentence. Whether it's the recommended 2 years, probation, or something harsher, one fact is clear: Boosie Badass has shown that resilience doesn't break under pressure. His journey is bigger than one federal case. It reflects how someone from Baton Rouge projects turned struggle into success, used street knowledge to rise in music, and held on to his roots on when it cost him. Free or incarcerated, Boosie's influence continues to resonate. His story inspires new artists who refuse to compromise their truth for approval. Hip-hop still values voices like his, raw, unfiltered, and committed to standing on their beliefs. Whatever comes next, one thing is certain: the streets will always respect authenticity, and few represent that more than Boosie Badass. Like this video, and check out more related content through the suggested cards on your screen.